Tenma is a young, ugly, and disgusting kid who lives in an Italian orphanage. He was abandoned by his parents, Yoma, one of the gods of time, and Partita, a former saint. As a result, Tenma was born as the reincarnation of the Pegasus Saint and only one who has enough cosmos power to slay gods. Every 200 years there's holy war between the goddess Athena and Hades. Both reincarnate into the world and awaken from their mortal bodies. Hades hates all humanity due to their sins and uses his army of 108 specters to clean them up from the planet. Athena, on the other hand, desires to protect humanity with the help of her zodiac saints. Despite everything, Tenma managed to find a sense of family along with his two other friends Sasha and Alone. Tenma has always been the type of kid who spends his time fighting bullies to protect his friends, especially Alone, who's bullied every day by some hungry street thugs. But Tenma is a true homie. He first scolds his friend for giving away his lunch money and then beats the group. Yet, he has a big problem called Alone. Turns out this kid is the old personification of Sakura, but filled with kindness because he forces Tenma to apologize for beating up the guys who bullied him. Days later, everyone's on the orphanage when kids rush in panic because the village will turn into Atlantis. The river has overflown due to the heavy rain and they're now in danger. Tenma gets furious because this means the townspeople closed the hill gate that worked as a dam. Alone wants to talk to the townspeople and ask please, but Tenma is against it. He promises he will take care of it and shows a bracelet. He reminds everyone of Sasha, his childhood friend and Alone's sister who was adopted a few years ago. He made her a promise that he would protect everyone until they could reunite again. Tenma heads to the river alone and learns that the mudslide changed the river's flow. He tries to think of what he can do to save everyone and decides to punch the rock. He manages to make a crack and gets pushed by the water flow against a rock. Despite bleeding from his head, Tenma sees this is the chance he was looking for. He keeps punching the huge rock until his fists start bleeding. He's making zero progress, but all his dedication and focus to save everyone allows him to channel the power of Cosmos into his body. And with a single fist, he manages to break the giant rock to change the river and save everyone. His body, however, cannot stand that level of power, which makes him faint. Luckily, he gets saved by Libra, who's one of Athena's saints. Libra tells Tenma he managed to protect everyone and wonders if he wouldn't want to use his strength and passion to help more people. He reveals that Tenma can fight for love and justice of this world if he comes to Greece and becomes a saint of Athena. Tenma accepts it without thinking twice. He believes this is the chance for him to become stronger and protect his family. He stays another day at the orphanage and bids farewell to Alone. Before moving, however, he reminds Alone to never forget their promise to reunite again one day with Sasha. Tenma arrives at the Greek sanctuary just to get tested and beaten up by a random guy who heard about the new kid. Tenma gets obviously frustrated and begins his training, which is to beat a huge rock until it turns into dust. I mean, he has already done it before. However, there's a problem. He's been training for a couple months and he's still tickling the rock. Libra mocks him for being the average you who achieves nothing in life. Tenma fights back, stating he has done it before when he changed the river's flow. However, he doesn't know why he can't do it right now. Libra explains that it's because he doesn't understand the root of destruction. Everything in the universe is made of atoms. Saints strengthen themselves by using Cosmo. During the stormy night, Tenma was so focused on the thought of saving his friends which made him subconsciously use his Cosmo. Libra wants him to focus his Cosmo on one thing he wishes to destroy, like what he did back then. Later that day, Tenma is taking a walk when he notices a girl who looks like Sasha. He chases her and reveals he didn't expect to find her here. She doesn't recognize him, but he shows her the promise bracelet they once made. She finally remembers him, and he reveals that he came here to become one of Athena's saints. He asks her why she's here, but they're interrupted by a monster that attacks Sasha. Tenma saves her, but he gets taken instead. The monster ties Tenma to a pillar with his tentacles and does some things to him without consent. Tenma gets frustrated with the thought of losing to the monster. He starts channeling his Cosmo and breaks through the monster's tentacles. The monster electrifies him and beats him up. It then changes its focus to Sasha, who seems to be channeling her power. Luckily, the Zodiac Saint Ares arrives and saves them. Iris apologizes to Sasha for being late and kneels while calling her goddess Athena. Tenma can't initially believe that Sasha is Athena, but that only motivates him to work hard to be by her side as a saint. He spends the next 2 years training until he gets into a final duel. The winner will become the next Zodiac Knight. Tenma is initially being pushed back, but he refuses to give up. He manages to channel his force and push the other guy against a boulder. Unfortunately, this shakes the column to a point where its top is falling above the random guy. Tenma, however, uses his desire to protect everyone and channels his cosmos to break the column. Tenma is then announced as the winner and gets awarded with his saint armor, being now recognized as the Pegasus Saint. However, he doesn't have time to celebrate because his boss told him to go to Italy and fight the Spectre army. Before leaving, Tenma decides to sneak up into Athena's temple and visit Sasha. They reminisce about their days at the orphanage. They wonder if Alone is safe because they learned that underworld troops called Spectres are gathering near their hometown. They are interrupted when they sense the awakening of Hades and Athena announces the beginning of the Holy War. Tenma gets ready to depart and finds out from Ares and Libra that he and his group will go to the cathedral in Italy where Hades is located. He vows to Sasha that he will protect Alone. After some traveling time, Tenma senses Hades in his hometown and rushes off to investigate. When he arrives, the town is in flames. He worries for the safety of Alone and the townspeople. He goes to check their house and sees blood spilled everyone. A specter attacks him, but Tenma easily blocks it and overpowers it with his Cosmo. He defeats the specter and vows never to forgive Hades. Another specter suddenly attacks Yato, one of Tenma's companions, but it's revealed to be Hades himself. Tenma is shocked because Alone is the reincarnation of Hades. He struggles to understand how his kind-hearted brother could be the reincarnation of a ruthless killer. Tenma gets furious and yells at Alone, asking if he burned the town. He's shocked when Alone calmly responds, saying Tenma kept his promise and returned as a saint. Alone reveals that he also trained hard to improve his painting skills, and he can now use them to save people. Alone shows him the unfinished painting of Tenma from 2 years ago and paints an X on it. Tenma suddenly pukes blood. He tries to reach out to Alone, but he dies. Tenma is carried by Yato, as instructed by Yuzuriha. She informs Yato that Tenma is not completely dead yet. He's taking a guided tour in the underworld. They arrive at Jamir, and she explains this is the to-go place when some saints can still be revived. Alter, the master of Jamir, examines Tenma and notices his flower bracelet. He immediately recognizes it as something made by goddess Athena when she was a child. He explains that the bracelet is keeping Tenma's soul connected to his body. However, the petals on the bracelet start falling, and once they're all gone, Tenma's soul will be dragged completely into the underworld. Meanwhile, Tenma's soul is chained in the underworld. He tries to break free, but he is interrupted by a specter named Fyodor. Tenma realizes he was killed by Alone during the battle. He is informed by Fyodor that one of the underworld leaders is now leading his army towards the sanctuary. He gets furious, but he can't do anything. Tenma meets with Yato and Yuzuriha, who are sent to the underworld to retrieve his soul. Fyodor attacks Yuzuriha from behind with shock waves, but Yato gets in the way to protect her. Tenma warns them that the shock waves will numb their senses, but it's too late. Yuzuriha attacks Fyodor, but she is crushed to the wall with the shock waves. Yato gets strangled by Fyodor, but he successfully lands an attack on him. Tenma couldn't do anything but watch his friends get beaten up. He starts channeling his Cosmo and frees himself from the chains. Tenma gets hit by the shock waves, but it does nothing to him, and he defeats Fyodor with a skill that enables him to use the power of 100 fists. Tenma doesn't really understand what's going on, but Yato explains that Tenma's flower bracelet is keeping him alive. He tells them to hurry up and revive him because the sanctuary is in danger, but Yuzuriha refuses to. She reveals they have another mission to do in the underworld. They must find something crucial to change the Holy War's course. Yuzuriha reveals that they are heading towards the great golden rain tree of the underworld. She explains specters cannot die. The only way they can kill them is by heading to the golden rain tree and steal the artifact. They head towards the exit of the passage and get into a fight with Cerberus, the underworld's watchdog. Yato tries to solo Cerberus, but he calls for backup because he's suffering from chronic skill issue. Tenma focuses his Cosmo into hitting Cerberus 3 heads all at once, and he takes it down. The 3 arrive at the 7th prison. Those who are engaged in corruption, thievery, or fraud fall there. Tenma gets uncomfortable seeing all the human bodies that fell there. He grieves for his best friend who used to love light and colors, but has now fallen into a dark world. Alone suddenly appears and greets Tenma. Tenma quickly notices his hair has turned jet black instead of blonde. Yuzuriha attacks Alone, but he blocks her effortlessly. He gets angry at her for interrupting his moment with Tenma. Alone tells Tenma that his survival even after taking a direct hit from him isn't just a coincidence. He invites Tenma to join him and the specters in bringing darkness to the world. Yato shouts at Tenma, warning him not to listen to Alone. Alone keeps going, saying they should defeat Athena and create true happiness together. Tenma refuses and adds that he's better off smashing Sasha rather than hanging out with the Hamas. Tenma swears to protect the world that Alone once loved. Alone leaves, saying the three of them will reunite again in the sanctuary. The three continue their journey to the Golden Rain Tree. They come across the Great Falls of Blood, where the Golden Rain Tree is said to be at the summit. They start climbing the falls, but Tenma senses something strange about the waterfall. He quickly warns Yato and Yuzuriha about it. However, when he looks back, they've stopped moving, as if time has frozen for them. Virgo appears within the falls and speaks to Tenma. He asks if he's willing to bow before the king again. Tenma is shocked, wondering how a gold saint could be in the underworld. He starts wondering why a gold saint, who's supposed to be on their side, feels like an enemy. Virgo calls Tenma the great sinner of the heavens, but expresses disappointment, saying Tenma is just a little boy. He hints that the truth Tenma seeks might lie with Hades. Tenma realizes Virgo is a traitor and asks Virgo how can he betray Athena. He makes a powerful attack towards Virgo, but Virgo stops his attack with a single word, telling him such weak and emotional attacks won't work on him. He then strikes Tenma, sending him crashing into the bloody falls. Virgo compliments him for surviving and calls him a god-killer. Tenma is confused and asks why Virgo calls him a sinner of the heavens and a god-killer. Virgo explains that Tenma's fate has been tied to the king of the underworld since the Age of Myths. He says Tenma's intertwined fate will change the course of the Holy War. Virgo points out that incarnations of Pegasus saints have always stood by Athena and are the only humans to have hurt the god of the underworld. But he criticizes Tenma, saying that as the current incarnation of Pegasus, he's clumsy, violent, and emotional. If someone like him is the key to the Holy War, Virgo doubts the world will be saved. Tenma ignores Virgo and swears to protect the world and Sasha. He tries to attack Virgo, but Virgo makes him stop mid-air and fills his mind with illusions. He declares that Tenma would not be able to defeat Hades without first defeating him. Virgo attacks Tenma, and he screeches in pain. Virgo demands him to stand and show him the limit of his power. Tenma answers him that as a saint of Athena, he naturally fights for peace. Virgo attacks him again and tells him it's not enough to convince him because he lacks substance. He declares that Tenma's resurrection to the world is pointless and tells him to burn in hell. Virgo casts an attack that sends Tenma's soul to witness the 6 stages of transmigration. Tenma sees hell, where souls pay for their sins. The hungry ghost world, where those driven by greed fall. The beast world, where those led by desires are reincarnated as beasts. The carnage world, where souls must fight enemies endlessly. The human world, a place of suffering and instability. And finally, the diva world, where even gods cannot escape. Virgo recalls how the Pegasus Saint has been reincarnated many times to fight alongside Athena. He believes this is why Hades hid his body in the underworld paradise called Elysium. Hades decides that he would take the body of the boy with his age's purest soul to reincarnate into just like Alone. Virgo finally pulls Tenma out of the illusions and tells him there's nothing he can do about his sins now. Tenma blames himself for Hades reincarnating into Alone. Tenma struggles to get back on his feet. He doesn't understand past lives, but he only has one reason: to fight for Alone and Sasha. To him, the promise he made dictates the path he will follow. It doesn't matter how many times he gets reincarnated, because he will always fight for the people important to him. Tenma channels his Cosmo into an attack, but Virgo stops him. Virgo finally understands Tenma's reason, yet he declares Tenma won't even be able to scratch him. However, he expresses interest in the strength of Tenma's soul and declares that he will defeat Tenma with his supreme spirituality. Virgo traps Tenma in a domain of his power which numbs all of his body. Tenma feels like he is disappearing. Virgo explains that his attack is the truth of the universe. Anyone hit with it cannot run or fight, and they lose all 5 senses. He begins to strip Tenma of his senses, which will lead to the extinction of Tenma's soul. Virgo declares that Tenma's reason to fight for his friends and his promise will come to an end. He adds that Sasha's will to protect the world will also fade, and the world will fall into Hades' hands. Virgo then shows Tenma an illusion of him killing Sasha. This vision makes Tenma so mad that he strengthens his Cosmo, and he finally lands an attack on Virgo, causing his domain to shatter. However, Tenma Punch landed on the Golden Rain Tree instead of Virgo. Tenma realizes that his fight was all in his head. Virgo reveals that the Golden Rain Tree is the only living thing in the underworld, and it has responded to Tenma's Cosmo. The tree starts bearing the final fruit, which Alter sought for a long time. He advises Tenma to bring as many fruits as he can to Jamir. Tenma shows Yato and Yuzuriha the Golden Rain berries. Yuzuriha notices that only 1 petal remains in Tenma's bracelet, which means his body is dying. The two carry Tenma on their way to escape the underworld. They exit a passage and meet another specter. The specter blames them for the destruction of the Great Falls of Blood. Yado takes the specter on a fight while Yusuriha returns to the real world with Tenma. Tenma wakes up and he learns he is in Jaimir. He sees Yado's body lying unconscious. Yusuriha informs him that they were attacked on their way out, so Yado stayed behind to fight it. Yado's soul returns to the real world. The specters head over to attack Jaimir after learning that the golden rain berries were stolen. Tenma senses the defeat of the specters and he recognizes Virgo's Cosmo. Virgo appears before him and asks him to take him to Altar. Yusuriha hands the golden rain berries to Altar. The berries counteract the specters' immortality and they're a weapon that seal the specters' spirits. The berries need the most powerful Cosmo in order to be turned into a weapon. The specters in Jaimir come back to life and proceed to attack them. Virgo refuses to fight with them this time because he has to sacrifice his Cosmo for the golden rain berries to work. Before he leaves, he uses his own blood to repair Tenma's Pegasus cloth. Tenma's Pegasus cloth is all renewed. He attacks the incoming specters with an enormous amount of Cosmo. Tenma feels very powerful, but the specters keep coming back to life. Yusuriha and Yado soon arrive to assist him. Tenma's motivation grows, and the three of them team up to take on the specters together. The battle seems endless because the specters are not dying at all. Tenma stops a specter from heading towards Virgo, who is in the middle of meditation. Tenma senses that Virgo might be in danger and rushes to check on him. By the time he arrives, Virgo has already sacrificed all of his Cosmo to seal the specter's soul inside the golden rain berries. Turning the berries into a weapon costs Virgo his life. Tenma grieves over Virgo's death, feeling the weight of his sacrifice. The Zodiac Saints start to fall one by one, causing Athena's barrier in the sanctuary to weaken. However, the specters face the same fate. They can't revive anymore because the golden rain berries are sealing their souls as soon as they die. The sanctuary's barrier completely shatters when Hades arrives. Tenma gets there just in time to join Athena in facing him. Tenma brings the golden rain berries with him to seal the nearby specter's soul. Tenma praises Sasha for all her hard work in maintaining the sanctuary's barrier on her own. He declares that Virgo gave his life for him, for the golden berries, and for Sasha. He gets furious when he remembers that the reason he is fighting is because of their promise to reunite again. He asks Alone if he can actually kill his little sister, just like how he burned their hometown without remorse. Alone replies that the promise they made is very important to him. However, they are no longer the same person. He then declares he can kill Sasha without remorse. Tenma saves Sasha from getting bitten by Cerberus and kills it. He tries to attack Alone, who stops Tenma from moving. Alone prepares to kill Tenma, but is stopped by a barrier. Athena's talismans flood over the temple and Alone's power is sealed. Pope Sage arrives and Tenma learns that he is one of the survivors from the last holy war 200 years ago. Alone attacks Pope Sage and mocks them for thinking that an ancient talisman that is over 200 years old wouldn't affect him. Pope Sage calls to Sasha and their combined cosmos spread through the temple. Athena's temple vanishes and reappears at the tower where Hades' 108 specters are sealed. Sasha and Pope Sage are determined to seal Hades' soul in the tower and pull it out of Alone's body to end the war. A massive cosmos suddenly descends from the sky. Tenma saves Sasha from being hit. They are Hades' reinforcements. Pandora is the commander of the specters, and she has always been beside Hades. She has always reincarnated as Hades' sister, but this time Athena was the one to do it. Alone declares it is over and decides to return to the castle. Tenma tries to stop Alone from leaving, but Alone's Cosmo easily overpowers him. Alone tells Tenma that neither his words nor his fists can reach him anymore. Before leaving, Alone warns them to hurry back to the sanctuary because he will soon unveil his painting. The painting shows dead humans and saints of Athena. He warns them that when he finishes this painting, he will call it the Lost Canvas and the world will perish. Tenma angrily reminds Alone that bringing death is not the reason why he loved painting. A specter suddenly comes from the shadows and attacks Tenma. Gold Saint Taurus gets in between them and stops the attack. He declares he won't let her get in the way of Tenma because only he can stop Alone. Tenma uses his Cosmo to follow Alone's wagon in the sky. He prepares to launch an attack, but Pandora stops him. She electrocutes him, forcing him to fall from the sky while unconscious. Athena only starts the restoration of the sanctuary 3 days after the last battle. However, Libra thinks that Tenma hasn't been acting like himself. Tenma worries about Sagittarius, who got hit by the arrow Alone redirected. He shares that they met a long time ago and he wants to speak with him, but Sagittarius won't wake up. Libra explains that the attack from Hades hit Sagittarius' soul directly. Tenma gets emotional thinking about the cruel acts Alone is doing. He wonders how a pure guy like Alone could be Hades. Libra shares that Sagittarius told him once about Tenma. He wishes Tenma to continue to think of Alone and moves straight forward. They are interrupted when Taurus asks them for help in clearing the destroyed temple. Tenma gets invited by Taurus to a duel. He easily overpowers Tenma with his Cosmo. Tenma attacks him, but it doesn't get through his tough claw. Taurus compliments his attack right before he smashes him to the ground with his power. Suddenly, bats from a specter start making Tenma and Taurus feel drowsy. Tenma is about to get killed, but Taurus counters the sleep-inducing effect by bursting his own eardrums so he can't hear the bats. Taurus refuses to fall even while taking heavy hits from the specters to protect Tenma. Taurus uses the last of his Cosmo and takes out the 2 specters to keep Tenma safe. When Tenma wakes up, he sees Taurus's lifeless body. He attacks a specter and accuses him of killing Taurus. The specter stops Tenma's attack effortlessly and tells him assassins will keep coming after him. He adds that Pandora is now leading the specters. Tenma learns that Taurus wasn't in any shape to fight that night, but he defended him with all his might. Tenma is filled with guilt and anger. He decides to leave the sanctuary and head towards to find Alone. Tenma meets with Gold Saint Cancer on his way. Cancer informs him that Libra and Aries are looking for him. Tenma blames himself for Taurus's death and decides it's better to leave the sanctuary since Pandora's assassins are after him. Cancer tells him that Taurus' death is inevitable because there is a war. He accuses Tenma of running away from the sanctuary because he is also weak. He attacks Tenma as he states that his desertion is punishable by death. He drags Tenma back to the sanctuary. Tenma gets thrown into prison in the sanctuary. He tries breaking the bars, but he can't. He wonders what Alone is doing now that Pandora is leading the specters. He spends the night in the prison, thinking about Alone and wanting to see him. He channels his Cosmo and keeps trying to destroy the steel, but gets nowhere. A piece of the ground suddenly moves, and Yato appears. Yato helps him escape through an underground path. Tenma is greeted by Yuzuriha outside. He mistakes Yuzuriha for a silver saint and gets scared for a second. Yuzuriha reveals that she has become a saint now. Yato shares that Alter instructed them to get Tenma out of the prison. The three head to exit the sanctuary. Tenma tells the two that he wants to go to Hades' castle. They finally escape the sanctuary with Alter's help. Tenma sees Sasha at the end of the passage and swears to keep their promise to reunite someday. The Lost Canvas is a painting that will soon annihilate all life on Earth once it gets finished, which is pretty soon. Tenma, Yato, and Yuzuriha continue their way towards Hades' castle. Tenma nearly falls while climbing the rocks, but Yuzuriha catches him. Yato mocks Tenma for showing signs of exhaustion already, and the two start to fight. Yuzuriha warns them that she will leave them behind if they continue to fight. Tenma remembers Sasha and swears to end the holy war once he arrives at Hades' castle. At the castle, Pandora seals Hades in his altar to make sure he will quickly discard his human heart. Hypnos and Thanatos sense Pandora is up to something, so they warn her that it will not end good for her. Tenma, Yato, and Yuzuriha move closer to Hades' castle. As they leave Tenma's hometown, they come across a forest. Tenma stops and wonders if the forest has always been there since it's his first time seeing it. The three wander through the forest, and they witness hundreds of zombie-like birds. Tenma's flower bracelet gets stolen by one of the birds. He chases it and leaves Yato and Yuzuriha behind. Yuzuriha gets attacked by the birds, and she disappears. Tenma continues to follow the bird that stole his bracelet. He makes sure to leave marks on the trees along the way so he doesn't get lost. The bird soon stops and Tenma is able to retrieve his bracelet. He is prepared to go back, but he notices that the marks he left on the trees have vanished. He checks more trees, but there are no more marks. A girl suddenly calls out to Tenma. He turns around and gets shocked. She's one of his friends from the orphanage. He thought Alone had already killed them. He can't believe they're still alive. The girl hugs him, making Tenma break down. The kids explain how scared they were while the city was burning. This made Tenma feel worse and worse. He apologizes for arriving so late. He's so relieved to see them alive and well to a point where he starts to cry. The girl suddenly bites him. Tenma is shocked. The girl reveals they're now zombies and reveal their true image. She comments on how warm his blood is, saying it's because he's alive, unlike them. Tenma gets furious and tries to convince himself it's just a dream because the kids would never attack him. The kids rush at him and start attacking. He leans against the wall of their old house and hears someone playing an instrument inside. Tenma breaks through the window and sees Nasu, a specter, sitting at an organ. Nasu stops playing and greets Tenma. The kids suddenly regain their consciousness and call out to Tenma, apologizing to him. Nasu starts playing again, and the kids go berserk. One of them wounds Tenma's waist. Tenma demands Nasu release the kids, but Nasu refuses, saying he brought them from the underworld. Tenma puts on his Pegasus claw and prepares to fight Nasu. Nasu commands the children to attack and drink Tenma's blood. Tenma refuses to hurt them and endures their attacks instead. He rushes toward the organ, knowing he has to stop it. He attacks Nasu and the organ, but a barrier blocks him. Nasu shares that he has been tasked to protect the forest and explains that destroying the organ will turn the kids back into lifeless corpses. Tenma notices the kids are crying. Their souls are still untainted despite being controlled. He apologizes to them and burns his Cosmo to shatter the barrier. He strikes harder and destroys the barrier along with the organ. Tenma apologizes again, blaming himself for failing to protect them. He watches as the kids regain their peace and bid him a final farewell. Yuzuriha gets forcibly teleported to another part of the forest. She faces Tokusa, her brother, that has been turned into a zombie by a specter. Yuzuriha remembers the day her brother and parents fell off a cliff in Jamir while traveling to the village. Her family was powerful, and she had to give up her dream of becoming a warrior to marry instead. Ares tells her that a disturbing Cosmo has been detected in Jamir. Yuzuriha is surprised to see Tokusa standing at the door. She runs to hug him. She is relieved that her brother is alive. However, Tokusa pushes her away and reveals he's now a specter. He tells her he heard Thanato's voice and accepted his offer of eternal life by killing their parents. Tokusa prepares to attack Yuzuriha, but Ares steps in and blocks him. Ares confirms Tokusa is the source of the disturbing Cosmo in Jamir. Tokusa says he became a specter to become stronger than Yuzuriha and Ares. Ares and Tokusa clash, exchanging heavy blows. Tokusa claims he can predict Ares' moves because of how well he knows him. However, Ares doesn't recognize the new strength Tokusa gained as a specter. Tokusa mocks Ares for his supposed weakness and mocks Yuzuriha for abandoning her warrior path. He declares that he will carry on their family's legacy as a warrior eternally. Yuzuriha says she will carve his betrayal into her body and prepares to attack, but Ares stops her. Ares warns her not to stoop to the level of the specters by killing her own brother. Tokusa accuses Yuzuriha of always admiring Ares, which caused their distance as siblings. He launches another attack on Ares, but Ares counters effortlessly with his overwhelming Cosmo. Ares strikes Tokusa and expresses a wish for him to find peace. Tokusa reaches for Yuzuriha as he collapses and dies in front of her. Tokusa tells Yuzuriha he wants to return to Jamir with her. The specter controlling him pulls him away and tells Yuzuriha she must kill Yado to transfer his life force to Tokusa. The specter forces her to choose between her younger brother and Yado. Yuzuriha declares that if Tokusa wants to back to Jamir with her, she has to put an end to the holy war. Yuzuriha puts on her silver saint cloth and faces the specter. Yuzuriha wraps the specter into his scarf, and its body starts to fall off. The specter is powerless against Yuzuriha. Yuzuriha finishes it off with a final hit. Yuzuriha chooses to protect Jamir and Athena because she thinks that's what her family would want. She claims she will protect it together with Tenma and Yado. Yado runs around the forest and is in disbelief that they all got separated. He trips and falls into a deep hole. He sees a huge specter inside eating rotting meat. The specter recognizes him as a saint of Athena. Yado puts on his saint cloth. He attacks the huge specter, but it does no effect. The specter easily slams Yado against the rocks. Yado struggles to free himself from the specter's grasp. The specter decides to let him go, saying he's weak and not worth eating. However, the specter demands he leave his cloth because he doesn't deserve it. Yado recalls his frustration growing up. He has always wanted to be a hero, but he was always put down by the people. He remembers his sister collapsing and warning him of the king of the underworld's revival. Yado brings his sister to the hospital. However, he sees the town is burning into flames. A specter attacks them from behind. Yado tries to fight the specter, but he is powerless against it. Yado and his sister are saved by Gold Saint Scorpio. Yado stands tall and declares he will fight alongside Tenma and Yuzuriha for Athena. The huge specter stops him from attacking, but he still manages to land an attack on it. Yado is confused when the specter disappears. Tenma continues his fight with Nasu. His attacks are constantly deflected by Nasu every time. He realizes the flies surrounding Nasu are blocking his strikes. Nasu vomits a swarm of flies that bite Tenma. Yuzuriha and Yado arrive to back him up. Nasu gets furious by their interference and blasts them with his power all at once. Nasu summons a horde of zombies from the ground to kill them. The zombies advance, but they are suddenly wiped out when Cancer arrives and destroys them all. Nasu loses it after Cancer destroys the souls of the zombies. Cancer smirks and introduces himself as their new babysitter. Tenma gets annoyed, saying they don't need babysitting. However, Cancer reveals that it's an order from above. Nasu figures out that Cancer is acting as Tenma's escort and says Cancer smells a bit like one of their allies. Cancer laughs it off and asks if Nasu is trying to flirt with him. Nasu snaps back, declaring he'll fight Cancer himself. Tenma stops him because he wants to take on Nasu, but Cancer ignores him and heads to attack Nasu. Thanatos learns about Cancer's interference in the Forest of Death. Hypnos wonders if Nasu would be enough to defeat the four of them. Thanatos responds that he has given Nasu enough power to defeat them. Nasu summons swarms of flies. The flies are powerful enough to break through the ground. Cancer dodges the flies that are coming towards him. Nasu explains the flies come from a corpse's soul remnants and follow his orders to attack or defend. The flies cover Cancer's whole body. However, his Cosmo is enough to kill all the flies surrounding his body. Cancer engulfs all of Nasu's flies in foxfire. The flies start to vanish with just a snap from Cancer. Nasu freaks out, and he gets furious because his flies are all dead. He decides to attack Cancer aggressively. Cancer dodges and traps him between his legs, letting him savor the sweet smell of his underwear. He squeezes Nasu's body so tight, he starts throwing up blood. He launches the final blow towards Nasu, which makes him collapse. Cancer calls him weak, but Yuzuriha warns that it might not be over. Nasu transforms into a specter. He declares that he has been given rule over the Forest of Death, and Cancer's attacks aren't enough to kill him. He is determined to show the four his power as the ruler of the forest. He starts to make every living thing around him rot. Cancer decides to toss Yato straight at Nasu. Yato couldn't do anything about it, so he just launches an attack. His attack pierces right through Nasu's body, but it does no effect on him. Instead, Nasu makes Yato's cloth rot. Yuzuriha grabs Yato out of Nasu's reach before he can hurt him. The ground starts devouring the four. Cancer orders the three not to rot before the time he comes back. He heads right into Nasu. The rotting stops, and the three wonder if Cancer won. Soon, a lifeless Nasu appears. Yato touches him to check if he's alive, but his dead body collapses. They notice that Cancer is not back yet too. Yuzuriha concludes that they are probably at the gates of Underworld. Cancer and Nasu face off in the Underworld. Nasu boasts that the Underworld gives him the upper hand, but Cancer tells him it's where he'll die. Nasu mocks Cancer for thinking he could defeat him with his foxfire. Cancer unleashes his demon flame, which devours souls to fuel its burn. No matter how immortal Nasu is, he is just a soul in the Underworld. The demon flame starts devouring Nasu's soul. Thanatos calls to Nasu through his mind and mocks him for losing to a gold saint. He orders Nasu to take Cancer's life away before his soul burns. Nasu suddenly becomes stronger and decides to take Cancer with him to burn with the demon flames. Athena starts to worry because she felt Cancer's Cosmo waver. Pope Sage tells her not to worry because he has taught Cancer a lot of techniques. Tenma, Yato, and Yuzuriha wait for Cancer. Nasu's body reverts to human form, and the forest stops rotting. Tenma wonders if Cancer won. Yato doubts Cancer will return, but Yuzuriha says Cancer is too strong to die. Yato asks if Yuzuriha knows Cancer. Cancer is the student of Pope Sage. She reveals that they have met a lot of times. Yato wonders who Pope Sage is. Tenma and Yato are shocked to learn that Alter and Pope Sage are brothers. Yuzuriha informs them that Alter is Pope Sage's older twin. Tenma reassures them that if that's the case, there's no need for them to worry about Cancer. The hidden path in the forest starts to appear now that Nasu is dead. The three are almost nearing Hades' castle. Cancer survives and uses the Underworld's paths to head to Hades' castle alone. He meets Thanatos and Hypnos. Thanatos realizes only Nasu has died. Cancer looks closely to the twins and confirms that Hades has twin counselors. He asks which of them is Thanatos. He reveals Thanatos is the one he wants to beat up the most. He proceeds to attack Thanatos, but his fist gets stopped by a single chess pawn. Cancer struggles to get his fist past the chess pawn. Hypnos walks away, not giving a care about Thanatos and Cancer's conflict. He hands the responsibility of taking care of Cancer to Thanatos. The chess pawn starts to vanish and Cancer gets blown away. Cancer laughs it off as he declares that he will end Thanatos. He tries going for a punch again, but he gets stopped and blown away once more. Cancer admits Thanatos' power is overwhelming. Thanatos places the knight piece on the chessboard, and suddenly, a night specter appears in front of Cancer. Cancer gets teleported to a domain that looks like a chessboard. The giant chess pieces start to attack him, but he dodges it. He barely manages to stop the knight's spear coming towards him. Cancer's foxfire soon surrounds the chess pieces. He quickly destroys them with his demonic flames. He declares that he will cremate Thanatos along with his soul. Thanatos decides to get serious and he teleports Cancer to the space. The space is a path traveled by gods. But if a mortal such as Cancer enters, they will be torn apart. Cancer is unable to move his body. Thanatos announces his death, but Pope Sage manages to enter the space. Thanatos wonders how can a human enter and survive the space. Pope Sage explains that his body is protected by Athena. He tosses the talismans written by Athena towards Thanatos and soon, the space gets destroyed. The three are brought back to Hades' castle. Pope Sage introduces himself to Thanatos and he reveals that he was the Cancer Saint in the last Holy War. He recalls how he and his brother, Alter, have been caught in the twin gods' wrath 200 years ago. In order to meet him, Pope Sage assigned Cancer to the task of guarding Tenma so he could follow his Cosmo once he interferes. Pope Sage checks if Cancer is alright. He responds that if it weren't for the barrier around Hades' castle, he would be able to move freely and defeat them. However, Pope Sage reveals that they are outside the barrier. The twin gods have their own palace, high above Hades' castle. He blames Cancer for losing because of skill issue. Thanatos states that an old man like him wouldn't be able to change anything about their fate. He teleports the two in another domain and unleashes spirit bodies that head towards them. The spirit bodies damage their opponent's body and soul. Thanatos wishes to add the two to the spirit bodies he owns. Cancer starts getting drawn by the spirit bodies. He gets tripped by the spirit bodies and Thanatos opens a black hole to suck him in. Cancer channels his demon flames that feeds through souls to destroy the whole domain. The ground starts to crumble and Thanatos' Cosmo is swelling up in the palace. He starts to charge his Cosmo into a huge destructive sphere. He sends the sphere to Cancer and Pope Sage's direction, but Cancer steps in the way to protect Pope Sage. Cancer struggles to stop the sphere. The sphere eventually destroys Cancer's cloth. Pope Sage takes over in stopping the sphere. He scolds Cancer for nearly getting himself torn apart. Cancer's cloth starts to fall off. He tells Thanatos to stop underestimating them. Thanatos uses his skill to make Cancer's body explode from a distance. He sends another sphere towards Pope Sage's direction. However, Athena's talismans soon fill up the palace. Pope Sage traps Thanatos inside the talisman cage. Thanatos mocks him for thinking a few talismans would stop him. Thanatos starts getting furious and he burns all the talismans. He smashes Pope Sage against the wall with his power. He explains that the talisman's power lasts only a little over 200 years and he must have used majority of its power during the battle with Hades. Thanatos charges another destructive sphere. Pope Sage commends Thanatos' power, but he refuses to die. Cancer regains consciousness and punches Thanatos right in the face. He tells Pope Sage that he's glad he got to punch Thanatos before he passed out. Thanatos rages over Cancer's action. He's done playing games, so he decides to destroy their body and souls entirely. Cancer asks if Pope Sage still got any of the talismans. He used to get them out of there before. However, Pope Sage has no more talismans left. Pope Sage and Cancer recall their past together and refuse to give up. Thanatos is still furious about Cancer raising his hand against him. He attacks them with a huge beam, and they both start to get pulled in by Thanatos' power. Thanatos tells the two that they cannot escape the destiny the gods dictate. He starts off by beating up Cancer. Pope Sage attacks Thanatos with the same technique Alter used to send humans to the underworld. He states that he knows Thanatos' real body is in Elysium and his current body is just a temporary vessel he created. If Pope Sage manages to draw his soul out from the body, his chances of winning will be higher. Pope Sage's attack does not work on Thanatos. Cancer steps in and continues pulling out Thanatos' soul from his body. The two combine their power to take out Thanatos' soul. Cancer takes out Thanatos' temporary vessel and sacrifices himself to return the Cancer cloth to Pope Sage. Thanatos is relieved that there's one enemy left. He shares that he's not bothered by the destruction of his temporary body because he can just create more if he wishes to. He mocks Cancer for dying for nothing. Pope Sage denies, saying because of Cancer, Thanatos is an exposed soul now. Thanatos decides to possess Pope Sage's body. With the Pope's body, Thanatos can now easily enter the sanctuary and take Athena's life with no problems. Thanatos starts to have a problem with gaining compatibility with Pope Sage's body. He can't completely take Pope Sage's body. Pope Sage reveals that he is wearing Alter's cloth. The cloth is imbued with the brother's powers and it can imprison a soul. Thanatos is enraged that the Pope deceived him. He starts hurting the Pope's physical body. Pope Sage voices that he is doing this for the future generations of saints. He decides to offer his life and seal Thanatos inside the holy ark Athena has given him. The Holy Ark returns to the sanctuary. Alter and Athena realizes Pope Sage has sealed Thanatos inside in exchange for his life. Athena starts to wonder if it was for the best. Alter replies that compared to the damage Thanatos wrought during the last war, it is the best outcome. Pope Sage's most cherished desire is to seal the twin gods' soul. Athena begs for Alter's assistance now that Pope Sage is gone. Alter reassures her, but he tells her that he can't stay around forever. Athena wishes Alter to stay alive during the war. However, all Alter wants is for the young saints to live and create the future. Ares senses something wrong with the Pope's Cosmo and heads to the Pope's chamber to check. He runs into Cancer on the way and immediately notices Cancer looks wounded. Ares asks why Cancer is there since he thought Cancer was supposed to be going after Tenma. He also questions why Cancer is in such bad shape. Cancer doesn't answer directly and instead hands Ares the Pope's mask. He simply tells Ares to handle the rest as his soul starts to fade away. Tenma, Yado, and Yuzuriha continue their way to the castle. Yuzuriha asks if Tenma is worried that something might have happened. Tenma gets distracted when he gets teleported somewhere else and meets Cancer. Cancer apologizes for not being able to babysit him anymore. He bids his last farewell and Tenma realizes Cancer has fallen. He encourages his team to hurry towards Hades' castle. Ares arrives at the Pope's chamber. He finds Alter sitting at the Pope's chair. Alter expresses that Sage must have felt lonely staring at his empty room for 200 years. Ares hands him the former Pope's mask and tells him that it is his turn to carry on Sage's will. Alter takes the Pope's mask but refuses to take on the position. However, he decides to bear the mask until someone from the younger generation takes on the Pope's position. Sagittarius is still unconscious after taking a direct hit from Hades. Athena looks at him with concern and says they can't defeat Hypnos or make it to Hades' castle without his power. An energy portal suddenly appears in the room. The Spectre identifies himself as Iceless, one of the 4 gods that serve Hypnos. He notices Sagittarius and declares that he will take his soul. Iceless steps out of the energy portal and starts biting into Sagittarius' soul. Capricorn tries to stop him, but he's too late. Sagittarius has now lost his soul to Iceless. Capricorn pleads Athena to let him rescue Sagittarius. They are originally tasked with investigating Hypnos. Sagittarius learns of the 4 gods serving Hypnos, and he has information about the dream world they rule. Hypnos worries about this, so he sent Iceless to lock Sagittarius' soul in the dream world. If the underworld exists to punish mortals, then the dream world is a special prison in the underworld. The land is ruled by gods, and no one can enter nor leave. The souls prisoned in the dream world sleep forever, and they are unable to reincarnate. Capricorn promises to defeat all 4 gods and rescue Sagittarius. He orders the saints in the sanctuary to protect Athena in his absence. Ares and Libra sense the strange Cosmo in the sanctuary. They learn that Sagittarius' soul has been stolen. Athena informs the two that she already sent Capricorn to retrieve Sagittarius' soul. Capricorn heads to the forest by himself. He senses a strong Cosmo of a beast. He recalls how Sagittarius always had a gentle heart. Sagittarius still blames himself for taking young Athena away from her friends to bring her to the sanctuary. Capricorn swears to find Iceless and bring back Sagittarius. Capricorn steps on the ground, it starts to crumble. A group of specters surface and face him. Capricorn beats the specters with a single strike. Another giant specter surfaces from the ground and fights him. The specter rolls over towards Capricorn, but he quickly tears him in half. The same energy portal appears behind Capricorn and Iceless steps out of it. He tells Capricorn that it's too late because Sagittarius' soul is locked away deep in Dream World. Capricorn answers that he'll just bust in the Dream World and use Iceless to show him the way. The 3 other gods that serve Hypnos appear. They scold Iceless for failing and being followed by Capricorn. Capricorn realizes that the 4 gods named Oneros, Iceless, Phantasos, and Morpheus are now in front of him. These gods rule over the Dream World. Morpheus asks him if he is willing to fight the gods of Dream. Capricorn states that he came all the way to fight them. He attacks Iceless, but a screen appears before Iceless that deflects his attacks. He tries to attack once again, but Iceless deflects the attack back, making Capricorn lose his right arm. Athena stares at a lifeless Sagittarius. Alter arrives and reassures her that Capricorn will be able to retrieve Sagittarius' soul because he has the power to defeat the 4 gods. Capricorn wonders how could he have lost his right arm with his own attack. Iceless explains that he can warp space. He binds the space where Capricorn's attack was headed to the space directly by his side. Capricorn warns him not to underestimate him just because he lost one arm. He proceeds to attack Iceless, but he teleports behind him and smashes him to the ground. Oneros tells Iceless and Phantasos that they must return to their mission. Their next mission is to capture Tenma and send him to the dream world. Tenma has a deep connection to Hades, that's why his forces work hard to keep him away. If Tenma gets sealed in the dream world, the Pegasus Saint cannot be reborn. Tenma, Yato, and Yuzuriha get closer to the castle. Tenma senses something strange and familiar in the forest. Yato and Yuzuriha eventually loses Tenma because of the fog. Tenma sees his hometown at the end of the forest. He wonders if it could be the enemy's illusion because his hometown was already destroyed by Hades. He sees Sasha and alone under a tree. He notices his clothes have gone back to normal. Sasha runs towards him and asks if he got into trouble. He informs Sasha that he has become a saint of Athena and turns to Alone to tell him that he became King Hades who destroyed their hometown. Alone smiles and tells him it was just his dream. Tenma is unconscious under the hands of the three gods. They finish their mission when Tenma's body entered the dream world. Juaneros asks Iceless if Morpheus has gone back to his post. He confirms, saying Morpheus is now back at Morphia. Morphia is the place in the dream world where the souls of heroes and kings rest. Juaneros opens the gate to the dream world. He wonders if a physical body has ever passed through the gate. Yato and Yuzuriha struggle to find where Tenma has gone. Yuzuriha notices a presence and warns Yato about it. Phantasos appear behind Yato, and he gets flustered when he sees it's a girl. Yuzuriha steps in and informs Yato that Phantasos' Cosmo far surpasses a normal specter. Yuzuriha attacks Phantasos with her scarf, but she dodges every one of it. She catches Yuzuriha's scarf and uses it to get close to her. Phantasos teleports the two into her domain where they are unable to move. She takes their souls and brings it to the dream world. Yuzuriha relives her life with his brother, Tokusa, in her dreams. Yato succeeds in saving Athena in his... A powerful strike rifts through the dream world. Capricorn enters the space with his sword. He explains that the gold cloth she took from him enabled him to enter the space. Phantasos realizes he used resonance with the gold cloth to break into the dream world. The cloth's voice crosses even the dream world's barriers. Phantasos informs him that they are in Fantasy, a place in the dream world that rules over the dreams of men. She teleports him in the same domain where Capricorn is unable to move. Capricorn is surprised when his Cosmo gets nullified. Phantasos appears right in front of him and takes his soul. Phantasos checks Capricorn's dreams, but she finds nothing aside from his sword. Capricorn's ultimate dream is to make of his fist his ultimate blade. The blade strikes right through Phantasos and her body starts to fall off. Capricorn's soul returns and he wakes up. Phantasos attacks Capricorn, but he blocks. She strikes repeatedly, but is stopped every time. Capricorn attacks Phantasos with his fist and she dies. Tenma's dream shatters and he teleports somewhere else. He sees Sagittarius' soul tied up on a tree. He recognizes him as the one who took Sasha when they were younger. Tenma quickly realizes that everything wasn't a dream. Sagittarius vanishes and Tenma refuses to let it be a dream because he remembers he is the Pegasus Saint. Capricorn moves to Phobia, where he encounters Iceless once again. Iceless rules the Phobia in the dream world. He believes it's the best place to end Capricorn. He learns that the arm he took from Capricorn serves only as a sheath for his energy blade. Capricorn ignores Iceless and attacks him. However, he forgets that Iceless can manipulate the space. Iceless deflects his attack and makes it reappear below him. Capricorn's legs get torn by his own attack. He decides to hit Iceless up close where he can't use his space manipulation power. Iceless uses his power to block the attack instead of deflecting it to other directions. Iceless disappears and Capricorn tries to think where he will appear. Iceless appears behind him and quickly surrounds him with his power. Capricorn cannot sense Iceless' presence at all. He connects the space to another and hides there. Morpheus senses that Tenma has woken up from his dream due to Capricorn's Cosmo. Although he has woken up, his physical body is still in Morphia, which means he will never awaken. Tenma decides he has to hurry because Yato and Yuzuriha are waiting for him. However, he doesn't know how to get out of the dream. Another Tenma appears before him, but he is wounded. His other self warns him that if he goes back to reality, his hometown and his friends will all be gone. His other self is tired of feeling guilty and pretending he doesn't feel it. Tenma asks if he is an enemy. However, he responds that he is his true self, the fruits of what he really thinks. He pleads the real Tenma to stay in the dream with him because he knows Tenma has already given up on the idea that the three of them will be reunited when the fight ends. Tenma admits that he can't do anything about the war and many has died fighting. He tells him he can't stay there because he has to fight. He gains motivation after realizing he still can't give up on the promise the three of them made. Tenma puts on his Pegasus Saint cloth and channels his Cosmo. He attacks his other self until it vanishes. Soon, the barrier in his dreams shatter. Tenma wakes up and faces Morpheus. Morpheus tells Tenma that he seemed to be at peace before with Athena and Hades. Tenma lashes at him for taking a look at his heart. He attacks Morpheus, but he cancels it with just a single hand. Morpheus mocks him for being so weak because he fights like a pampered princess. He declares that he isn't worthy of resting with the heroes in Morphia, so he will destroy his body. Capricorn continues his battle with Iceless. However, he is incapable of predicting his attacks because he keeps on hiding. Capricorn forces himself to see beyond the room in order to predict Iceless. He sees through him and manages to land an attack. Iceless wonders if it was just luck. Capricorn attacks once more, this time fully predicting Iceless' location. He finishes Iceless with a slash on his neck. Tenma is defeated by Morpheus. He finds himself bound by Poppy's flowers of the dream world. The plants will steal any emotion Tenma expresses and their flowers will bloom. Soon, when Tenma becomes nothing but an empty shell, Morpheus plans to put him back to a Morphia dream. Tenma gets enraged when he thinks of being put in the Morphia dream again. Morpheus calls out that because he's being emotional, he will lose one emotion. A flower grows from his body and he loses his ability to feel anger. His body can't burn Cosmo anymore. Morpheus tells him not to worry if he's feeling scared because it will vanish soon, along with all of his emotions. Tenma loses strength and he feels like nothing matters anymore. He starts to see images of Alone, Sasha, and the dead saints. The poppies start blooming endlessly, but they are all white. It is not taking his emotions anymore. It is displaying his overwhelming will instead. Tenma's Pegasus cloth transforms into a god cloth. His cloth portrays Pegasus Saint's force of will that opposed even the gods in the age of myth, all for the people and Athena's sake. Morpheus attacks Tenma, but he dies at the hands of the new Tenma. Tenma's cloth reverts back to normal, and he is clueless with what just happened. He wonders where did Morpheus and the flowers go. The Morphia starts to crumble, and the souls are being released except for Sagittarius' soul. Capricorn saves Tenma from being crushed by a pillar. He realizes that Capricorn's Cosmo allowed him to awaken from Morpheus' dream. He recalls when Libra once told him that among the saints, the sword of Capricorn was the strongest. Tenma asks if Hades' castle is far from the dream world, but Capricorn just ignores his questions. They spot the gate that leads towards Sagittarius' soul. They see that Sagittarius' dream is all about the time he went to pick up Sasha from the orphanage. Even if Morpheus is defeated, Sagittarius is engulfed by his dream. Capricorn decides to release and reclaim his soul because the sanctuary needs him. He strikes right through his dream, but it only ripples. Capricorn wonders if only gods are allowed to enter. Sagittarius' soul is so close to them, yet they cannot get a hold of it. Capricorn swears to destroy the gate no matter what. A voice suddenly echoes through the room, saying no one may open the gate. It is closed tightly by Sagittarius' own will. The voice appears to be the last one standing among the four gods, Juaneros. Capricorn asks if Sagittarius is not allowing him to enter, but Juaneros tells him to take a guess. Capricorn guesses that it's because Sagittarius still takes the blame for taking Sasha from Tenma and her friends to bring her to the sanctuary. Juaneros declares that Capricorn cannot do anything now. Capricorn agrees, but he states that only one person can save Sagittarius. He sends a signal to Athena with his Cosmo to report the situation to her. Athena decides to head to the dream world herself. She doesn't want to waste the opportunity given by Capricorn because only her can save Sagittarius now. Juaneros proclaims that Tenma and Capricorn have committed huge sins by defiling his brothers. Capricorn states that he can't do anything now that 3 of the gods have fallen. Juaneros responds that they exist forever, in a dimension beyond a human's imagination. He then summons the souls of the 3 fallen gods. The 3 souls of the fallen gods merge with Juaneros' body. Juaneros states that Tenma and Capricorn only defeated his brother's temporary vessels, but if he summons their souls, they will regain their power. Tenma attacks Juaneros, but it has no effect on or doesn't affect him. Capricorn asks Tenma to stand back as he will take Juaneros. He strikes him with his blade and manages to slice Juaneros' body in half. However, his body regenerates. There are 4 souls in Juaneros' body, and every soul is acting to protect it. Juaneros decides he will annihilate the 2 with his Guardian's Oracle, even if it's against Hypno's orders. Capricorn recalls that Juaneros' Guardian's Oracle has once annihilated an entire nation in a single blast. Juaneros unleashes the Guardian's Oracle towards the 2. He decides to leave thinking the 2 have already been decimated by his power. To his surprise, Tenma and Capricorn survived through the help of Athena's staff. Athena herself has descended in the dream world to help in recovering Sagittarius' soul. Capricorn apologizes for not being able to complete his mission, but Athena recognizes his efforts. She states that their battles have created an opening into the dream world. Athena swiftly enters the gate where Sagittarius is imprisoned. Oneros tells them Athena's arrival only makes things easier for him since he can destroy them all at once. He charges another Guardian's oracle and Capricorn gets ready to counter it. Capricorn strikes with his blade until a rift gets created and surrounds Oneros. He plans on forcing him out of the dream world using the rift since fighting in the same place as Athena will endanger her. Tenma joins Capricorn in forcing Oneros out. They successfully shatter the barriers in the dream world and return to the reality. Oneros realizes that the two are buying time for Athena to rescue Sagittarius. He mocks them for thinking they'd win just by kicking him outside. Another batch of saints arrive to join Tenma and Capricorn. Oneros charges his Guardian's oracle, but the saints refuse to run away. The three saints merge their attack towards Oneros, but it's only a soft breeze to him. He unleashes the Guardian's oracle towards the three, which annihilates them. They try to call for Capricorn's help, but it's too late. Capricorn checks on them and grieves that he couldn't protect them. The saints respond that they are already satisfied to fight alongside him. The saints die in the hands of Capricorn. Tenma charges at Oneros, but he can't even get near him. Capricorn saves him for being hit by Oneros' attacks. Tenma notices that Capricorn is deeply enraged by the death of his students. He tells Tenma that their next attack will decide the battle. He explains that Oneros' regenerative and offensive power are derived from the four gods' souls. He plans to discover the locations of each of the four gods and separate them. However, he will need Tenma's help in making an opening. He instructs Tenma to attack with all his might once he signals. Oneros charges another Guardian's oracle. Capricorn stops his attack and heads towards him. Tenma exchanges with Capricorn and stops his attack, while Capricorn locates the other three souls to separate them. Tenma and Capricorn are teleported in space as they watch the three souls regenerate slowly. Oneros notices that Capricorn is nearly out of power because his body is already losing a lot of blood. Tenma steps in and refuses to end the battle. He attacks Oneros, but he is stopped with a single hand. Tenma stands back up and gives it another try. He struggles to block Oneros' attack, but he pushes through. He finds Yato and Yusuriha fighting alongside him. Yusuriha asks if Oneros was the one who destroyed the forest. Tenma explains that Capricorn already tore his body apart, so he can't concentrate enough with his attack. He explains Capricorn's plan to them. The three synchronize their attacks, which puts Oneros in a hard time to defend himself. A blast strikes the three of them and Oneros isn't wounded at all. Oneros' body is almost done regenerating, and he is preparing another Guardian's oracle. Athena takes a look at Sagittarius' dream. She concludes that Sagittarius is still grieving over the day he took Sasha from her friends. On that day, he asks Sasha to go to the sanctuary with them in preparation for the Holy War. Sagittarius still feels bad that he had to take away Sasha's happy life because the land is at risk. An evil Sasha tells Sagittarius in his dreams that he's the cause of the Holy War. Sagittarius' guilt eats him up, and he gets shot by an arrow on his chest. Athena sees Sagittarius' body is starting to be covered with surplus. Sagittarius is slowly losing himself and is about to become a specter. He wakes up and attacks Athena, saying she should forget about him. Sagittarius faces Athena and tells her he was the one who caused the Holy War. He feels like he doesn't have the right to be a saint. Sagittarius starts to reject himself and Athena. Athena tries to reassure him, saying it's not his fault the Holy War began. Sagittarius refuses to say anything more as he points his bow towards Athena. Athena recalls how Sagittarius was always filled with gentleness and righteousness. However, if he has fallen into darkness, Athena prepares to defend herself as the goddess of war. She encourages Sagittarius to let his arrow fly towards her. Sagittarius attacks her with his arrow, and she willingly accepts it. She's glad she gets to share some of Sagittarius' pain. Sagittarius feels the guilt for wounding Athena. He declares he can no longer be a saint. Athena embraces Sagittarius as she tells her that her birth itself was the omen of the Holy War. The evil has already been awakened, and the twin gods have begun their move. She tells Sagittarius that he protected her because if it wasn't for him, she would have been killed as a child. Through Athena's words, Sagittarius starts to regain his saint cloth. He vows down to protect Athena at the cost of his own life. Athena's soul returns to the sanctuary along with Sagittarius' soul. Yato asks Tenma if Capricorn is still alive because he senses no Cosmo from him. Tenma tells him to worry about himself because Capricorn is fine. The three decide to synchronize their attacks once again. However, even with their powers combined, they can't hit Oneros. Instead, Oneros blasts all of them with a single strike. Sagittarius and Athena combine their powers and launch an arrow at Oneros. Oneros starts to feel the Cosmo heading towards him and wonders if it's from Athena. Capricorn stands back up, and he feels more strengthened after sensing Sagittarius' Cosmo. He amplifies the incoming arrow and cuts it in 4 with his blade. The arrows hit Oneros right in the 4 locations of their souls. Oneros' body explodes, but he launches a final attack toward Tenma. Capricorn steps in to block the attack and cut through Oneros' soul. Capricorn dies trying to protect Tenma and Athena. Sagittarius prepares to take down Hypno's barrier of sleep around the castle. The barrier casts all who cross it into a slumber. It has been preventing Athena's forces from advancing. Alter, who has temporarily taken the position of the Pope, informs the saints that the time of the final battle against Hades' forces is upon them. The castle's barrier has been broken by Sagittarius, leaving the enemy castle exposed. Alter announces the beginning of the final battle. Hypnos heads to the dream world where Hades is imprisoned. He finds him finishing his painting of the lost canvas. Hypnos praises the thought of humans being able to create a beautiful painting and have murder one another without hesitation. Hades responds that he has abandoned his humanity long ago, and he was reborn as King Hades. He wishes a world filled with death and salvation, without starvation, illness, or poverty. Hypnos admires his dedication to his task. However, he deems alone for calling himself Hades and acting like him, all while still being a man himself. He calls it one of the foulest deeds that cannot be forgiven. Hades challenges him to a duel, but Hypnos admits even he cannot match his power. Hypnos confesses that he purposely brought Tenma close to him to put a huge strain on his soul. He declares that Hades' human soul is at its limits. Hades is enraged, but Hypnos casts a huge spell that makes Hades fall asleep. Hades' soul surfaces, and he swears to defeat Athena's army and end the holy war. He plans to paint the world with ultimate darkness. Ares informs Alter that the entire sanctuary has gathered to prepare for the siege on Hades' castle. He notices Alter took off the Pope's clothing and asks where is he going. Alter simply responds that he has left his final orders and the army's command to Sagittarius. Ares tries to stop Alter from leaving, but he gets mad at his interference. He states that he has never done anything that wouldn't benefit the sanctuary. Ares decides to follow Alter, but Libra spots him and stops him from going. He informs Libra that Alter went on his own to Hades' castle. Libra realizes it's because Sage gave his life to seal Thanatos. Alter must also sacrifice his for Hypnos. Ares claims that he wishes to fight with Alter, but Libra tags along with him. Sagittarius senses that Ares and Libra disappeared. The saints wonder how are they going to teleport to Hades' castle. Sagittarius presents Atla, a kid who is an expert at psychokinesis. Teleporting an army is nothing for Atla. Atla charges a huge sphere around the sanctuary. The army instantly teleports in front of Hades' castle. Tenma, Yato, and Yusuriha struggle to climb their way towards Hades' castle. Tenma notices Yato and Yusuriha stop from climbing. They state that their bodies feel weird. The two loses consciousness and fall. Tenma grabs both of their arms to save them from falling. Libra appears behind Tenma, and he encourages him that if he cannot survive, he will never reach alone. Tenma asks why Libra is there, but he just responds that he can't leave Tenma be killed. Ares also appears before them. He informs Tenma that Yato and Yusuriha collapsed because of Hades' barrier. Hades' castle is not only protected by Hypno's barrier of sleep. The castle is also protected by Hades' own powerful barrier, which reduces a saint's power to 1/10 of their original strength. Yato and Yusuriha might be under its effects, that's why they collapsed. Tenma wonders why he isn't affected. Ares points that it's because of the bracelet Athena gave him. Yato wakes up and refuses to be defeated by Hades' barrier. Yusuriha also reaches for Ares' arm and stands up. Sagittarius, along with the sanctuary's forces, advance towards Hades' castle. However, he warns them to hold their ground and wait. The specters above the castle see the saints and prepare to battle. Alter appears before them and defeats the specters waiting for the sanctuary's army. The remaining specters run away after witnessing Alter's power. Tenma, Libra, and Yato are nearing the castle. However, they stop when they notice that Yusuriha and Ares vanished. Scorpio ignores Sagittarius' order to wait. He heads off on his own towards the castle. Aquarius finds Scorpio as he expected that he will ignore the orders. Scorpio wants to be the first one to enter the castle, but Aquarius informs him that someone has already entered. Alter faces the Hades army. They wonder why Hades' barrier is not working on him. However, they are left with no time to think because Alter heads to kill them. They try to fight back, but none of their attacks are reaching Alter. After finishing the army, he locates the center of the barrier. He prepares to plant his sword in the middle to destroy the remaining barrier of Hades' castle. Before he can unsheath his sword, Hypnos appears behind him. He explains that Alter's sword is imbued with Athena's blood, which is why he was able to move freely within the barrier. However, Hypnos doubts that he would be able to plant the sword within his presence. Alter recalls the war 200 years ago, where Athena and the sanctuary successfully defeated Hades. However, the twin gods descend from the sky and recovered Hades' soul. The twins charge Guardian's oracle towards Alter, but Athena steps in to block it. They charge another one, but Athena has taken all the damage from it. Athena survives, but the twins choose to leave. Athena stops Sage and Alter from going and heads to follow the twins herself. Alter tells Hypnos that he hasn't forgotten how he felt that time. Hypnos responds that his obsession on that day kept him alive through the last holy war and even allowed Sage to seal Thanatos. He compliments Alter and states that he has earned his respect. Ares and Euceriha suddenly fall from the void Hypnos created. They are both unconscious. Hypnos informs Alter that Ares followed him. Alter scolds Ares for following him. However, Ares responds that he's tired of him always heading off and fighting alone. Hypnos suddenly makes the floor disappear and the three find themselves free falling. Hypnos states that he will let them experience falling from a 10,000 meter altitude. The three fall towards the ground. Alter stands back up immediately as if he's not hurt from the fall. Hypnos makes Alter choose between his loyalty towards Athena or his students. He summons a huge meteor above Ares and Euceriha. Hypnos tells him that if he wants to save the two, he has to bow down before him and leave. Ares speaks from behind and tells Alter to forget them and continue the fight. The sealing of the two gods is more important as Alter has waited for it for so long. He advises Alter to carry out the will of the saints. Euceriha agrees with Ares' idea. The meteor descends from above Yado and Euceriha. Alter heads towards the two and catches the meteor. Alter starts to bleed as he states that he doesn't have the intention to let them die. Alter chooses to use his final technique. He has spent his entire life mastering this technique. The technique named as the Wish of the Saints summons all the dead saints' souls from the underworld. Hypnos calls it useless, saying it's a powerless gathering of the dead. He states that he can simply return them to the underworld. The saints' soul merge in a one huge energy blast. Alter pushes the blast towards Hypnos. He stops it with one hand as he belittles the human strength. Alter realizes that even with all their power together, they still can't stop Hypnos. Alter decides to abandon his body and join the souls. His soul attacks Hypnos and he starts to vanish soon after. Ares and Euceriha run towards Alter's lifeless body. Soon, his soul returns to his body and he wakes up. He takes out the Holy Ark from his body. He is relieved because he finally sealed Hypnos inside the Holy Ark. Ares stares in admiration of Alter's feat. He proudly proclaims him to be his master, the last one carrying the will of the last generation saints. Alter heads towards the center of the barrier. He prepares to plant his sword and he declares it to be his final task. Alter is about to plant the sword when Hades arrives and kills him. Aquarius senses that Hypnos' Cosmo disappeared, which means Alter fulfilled his desire of sealing him. The army start to notice that the barrier is getting stronger. Ares is enraged by the sight of his dead master. He launches an attack towards Hades. However, Hades opens a portal towards the space, where Ares' attack gets sucked in. His attack soon comes launching back at him. Ares notices that Hades' Cosmo is now pure black, completely different from his Cosmo before. Ares stands back up as he apologizes. He heads towards Hades, aiming to get the sword that can destroy the barrier. Before he can reach it, Hades shatters it. Hades figured out that the sword powered by Athena could break his barrier. Euceriha is left to face Hades. She can't even move due to his overwhelming power. Hades blasts Euceriha, but Ares steps in to protect her. Tenma, Yado, and Libra soon arrive to help them battle Hades. Tenma ignores Hades and walks towards Alter's corpse. He asks Hades if he was the one who did it. Hades laughs and Tenma gets enraged. Hades tells him that alone, the vessel he used for resurrection is no longer in the world. Tenma launches an attack towards Hades, but he makes it disappears. Hades raises his arms and Tenma's attack comes right back at him. Hades declares that a mere saint's fist cannot touch him. Tenma stops Libra from helping him. He states that he will be the one who ends Hades because he promised he will protect Alone and Sasha. Hades attacks Tenma and he is powerless against it. Hades summons his sword. He quickly wants to end his relationship with Tenma. He swings his blade, but Libra leaps to his defense. Libra's shield shatters as a result. Hades remarks that even with Libra's addition to the battle, it would all be irrelevant towards him. Tenma and Libra merge their attacks towards Hades. However, with just a swing from his sword, all of them get smashed against the floor. The group is overwhelmed with Hades' power. Tenma refuses to believe that alone isn't within Hades anymore. Athena's soul suddenly descends at the castle. She conveys that Sage and Altar have given their lives to seal the twin gods. Athena declares that she will be fighting alongside Tenma as the goddess of war. Hades replies that Athena dug her own grave. Hades charges a huge destructive sphere towards them, but Tenma stops it. Tenma transforms into his Pegasus god cloth. Tenma launches towards Hades and their powers clash. Tenma gets smashed towards the ground, but he successfully lands a hit towards Hades. Hades is furious that a mere bronze saint like Tenma managed to hurt him. He whips his sword towards Tenma and Athena. Tenma loses his god cloth and Athena's soul vanishes. Ares swears not to let Tenma die. He sees the history unfold before him as Pegasus Saint manages to injure the body of Hades again. Just like in the Age of Myths, he wonders how he can draw Hades' attention from him. Libra tries to make an opening for Ares. He declares that Tenma must carry on the will of their fallen comrades as he advances towards Libra. Libra's attack distracts Hades from Ares' incoming spear. However, the spear fails to even touch Hades. Libra exclaims that it was just the opening they needed. Ares grabs Tenma, Yato, and Yuzuriha to make an escape, while Libra is left behind to fight Hades. Libra reminisces his days with Tenma as he launches towards Hades. Tenma and Ares notice a huge blast outside the castle, and they immediately realize that Libra has fallen. Hades stares at Libra's corpse as he notes that he just acted as a decoy to make an escape route for Tenma. Hades' castle starts to fall apart. The skies are starting to be covered by the lost canvas painting. A huge staircase appears and Hades makes his way towards it. Pandora bows down and informs him that his new castle has been established. Athena welcomes the return of Tenma, Ares, Yato, and Yuzuriha. Ares apologizes for letting a lot of their comrades die. Tenma enrages as he remembers the death of his comrades. He swears to get stronger and defeat Hades. Watch this next video. See you on the next one.